Hi, everyone. We are just giving everyone a moment to file in. We'll be starting shortly. In the meantime, if you would like to put in the chat where you're from, we love to hear from our audience and find out where everyone's from. It's always so great to see just the wide variety of viewers that we get. So please feel free to pop that in the chat. In the meantime, we're just going to take a couple of more moments and wait for everyone to file in. So we have Nevada, Liverpool, very neat. And guys, if you are just now joining us, we will be starting shortly. We're just giving everyone a moment to file in. Right. Panelists, if you'd like to go ahead and turn your audio and video on, I think we're going to get started shortly. All right, I think we are ready to get started. So, hi everyone, and welcome to Customer Service Automation, Improving Customer and Employee Experiences. I'm Micah McGuire, ProWritingAid's Digital B2B Marketing Manager, and today I am joined by several panelists, Kyle Lacey from Lessonly, Lauren Cunningham from Loom, Max Gladish from BotsCrew, and Tom Wild, also from ProWritingAid. We have got a great session planned today. We have some awesome insights from all of our experts today. I think you'll really get a lot out of it. And without further ado, let's get started. So everyone, if you could just quickly introduce yourselves and give a little bit of background about your position, what you do, all of that great stuff. Lauren?
Yeah, I can kick us off. So hi, everyone. My name is Lauren. I'm super happy to be here today and talk to all you wonderful people. I'm a support operations lead at Loom. And if someone is curious, Loom is a video messaging tool. So essentially you record your screen, your camera and your voice and you share it. I've been with Loom for a couple of years, based in beautiful Lisbon, from Melbourne. And I think when I joined Loom, we had 700,000 users. Now we have 10 million. So for me, it's been a really exciting challenge to navigate how to support our users at scale. So automation has played a huge role in this. And that's definitely why I'm really looking forward to talking to everyone today. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. And that is just amazing numbers for Loom. Congratulations on that. Tom, if you'd like to go next.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm just thinking about those numbers that Lauren just quoted. They're amazing. But I'm, I'm head of client solutions and head of support at ProWritingAid. I'm based in Brighton on the south coast of the UK. And I spent my lifetime helping people to write. So whether teaching or working in learning and development and corporate training, or where I am now, ProWritingAid, helping users, corporate users and individuals understand the real power of ProWritingAid, understand how to customize it, how to make it work for them. So yeah, I'm really interested to be here. We are a company that embrace automation in many different ways, but I feel we've still got a heck of a lot to learn. So I'm really interested in this discussion today and delighted to be part of the panel.
Max, if you'd like to introduce yourself next.
Sure, thank you so much. Hey everyone, it's great to be here. My name is Max and I'm the co-founder of the company called BotsCrew. And pretty much what we do, we try to improve customer experience and as well employee experience by introducing this smart chatbots. So think of us as kind of one-stop shop for chatbots where we start with automation strategy for you. Then we would actually design and develop the chatbot with our team. And then we provide you with the simple UI to manage the chatbot after it's being built. So you can get the analytics and the results of the chatbot there. I'm really excited to be here as well and share my experience. I've been following chatbots for a while already, and I'm a big chatbot enthusiast. So we'll be happy to share the experience that we had so far and BotsCrew serving our clients, and as well the results and mistakes that we saw people are doing. Thank you.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Kyle.
I'm Kyle Lacey. I am a happy Loom customer, and that's why I'm here. No, I'm kidding. I serve the marketing team at Recentering. Recentering is training and enablement software for sales and customer service teams. So anything from a scale-up software company all the way up to a huge call center. We help a lot of customer service teams just onboard and train reps appropriately at scale to help with the automation that we'll talk about today. And I'm happy to be here as well.
All righty, fantastic. So we will go ahead and dive into our roundtable questions. Just so we can get things started, when we talk about automation and customer service, let's get into what kind of strategies and tools that actually come to mind for customer service automation. Max, if you could kick us off.
Sure. So I think that's a really broad question, but an important one for sure. So when I think of customer service automation and the strategies around this, first thing I will say is that the best strategy is that always remember that when building automation for customer service, there are at least two main stakeholders in this process, which are your customers and users, and as well your team. Right, so kind of the best strategy is to always remember that and make sure that your customers receive kind of this personalized automation, not annoying automation. They can get their answers 24/7 and in the channels they prefer. And as well with your customer support team, you have to make sure that you don't just bring them a bunch of tools they have to use and overwhelm them even more, but rather simplify their work and kind of automate their routine and give them a bit of this space to think and actually concentrate on things that really requires their attention. But then when you know that you're doing things right there, then the first thing you have to do is to understand kind of the data that you're working with. So I think the first and most important tools that you should be using when thinking about customer service automation is any type of analytical tools in order to understand what are the most popular questions that you are getting, where this drop-off rates maybe in your customer journeys are, to see how you can better serve your clients. And as well, actually, the same goes to your customer service department. So you would like to have the tools in place that that kind of gets the feedback from your team, so you can then analyze the feedback and think what you can automate for them to make their lives easier. When you have all of that and all of the analytics are in place, and you know the pains of your kind of audience and your employees, then you can think about kind of the basics of the automations, as I would say, and the most popular tools these days, such as actually automation of the workflows in your CRM, right? You would also think about chatbots themselves, of course, to make it easier for your clients to find the information. You also would think about some kind of email automation, then self-service space for your clients. Also, if you know the most popular questions already that your clients are asking, you would want to have some kind of FAQ sections here and there. Also, there is help communities that also can avoid this huge amount of requests to your customer support department. So like the community of users are helping each other. If you have a big community that are really strong one, it's not an easy task to do, but if you do it right, then definitely you will benefit from it a lot. And at the end of the day, what you want to do is, based on all of this data and the tools that you're using, one of the, I think, most important tools in customer service automation is actually your end product. Because what you should see is that if you're getting too much requests, let's say, about your pricing, or about if I can pay with this card or that card, maybe you should change the payment page of your like SaaS product or whatever, or make this button more visible. So that's always something you should remember. So not just be proactive, not just be reactive and answer their questions, but also learn from this and do the changes to your main core product. So I think that will be the main tools, strategies that I can think of. Maybe someone can add to that.
Yeah, Lauren, I think you've got a good bit of firsthand experience with this, with building this into a team. Anything to add on?
Yeah, so definitely along the lines of what Max was saying, I think the basis is understanding your customer data and understanding your customer issues. And then from there, you know, one of the things that stands out immediately is a chatbot. And that's something we did implement recently. We instantly saw our resolutions. We could give an instant resolution to our customer. And so far, the chatbot was handling the equivalent of 2 team members' inbound messages per day. But that's not to say that it's meant to replace humans, but more about freeing up support agents' time to work on more complex issues. As well as within your support tools that you're using. In addition to this, we use Zendesk, and we rely a lot on triggers and automations within Zendesk. So that's to be using automation to route the correct message to the correct team to make sure it's handled by the most knowledgeable team members. Or if a solution can be answered by an automation, you know, a keyword trigger can then reply to the customer to get an instant answer as well. And the last thing I'll say on this is from a knowledge-based point of view as well, there are so many great tools for knowledge-based automation, and one in particular that we use is a tool called Guru, and it's for an internal knowledge base actually, but what it does is with the integration in Zendesk, when a ticket comes into the inbox, it will automatically try to map to the piece of information in your internal knowledge base, and it supports the agent to make that response faster and with more confidence. So that's more of a agent-assisted automation there as well.
Fantastic. It is awesome to hear about helping, you know, both from the customer's end and from the employee end. Kyle, Tom, do you guys have anything to add on to the tips and tricks that we have there?
Not for me. I think that was very thorough.
Yeah, I think so too, Mike. I think the only thing to say is that, you know, when it comes to automation, a lot of people maybe don't realize that they're already using some to some degree. So, you know, we've mentioned knowledge bases. We've mentioned kind of emails. We've got, you know, at ProWritingAid, we're using lots of kind of workflows, if this, then that kind of logic, even just kind of saved replies. So it's all built around, you know, helping the customer, delivering better service to the customer, but very much with the customer in mind. And we're going to come on to discuss a lot of this, but I think, you know, it's a lot of us look at chatbots as where we want to be, but we're doing a lot of automation. Many of us are doing automation on the way there as well. I think that's, that's an important point to make.
Yeah, Tom, that's an excellent point about all the things that you don't know that your company may already be doing. Lauren has already touched a little bit on this next question that I've got, and it's talking a little bit about whether automation actually replaces humans, which I think we can all agree that's kind of a hard no when it comes to teams. It's more about helping the teams out. So if it is not about replacing your team, then where do you see that role in automation? Lauren, if you'd like to kick us off.
Yeah, definitely. So I certainly agree with you, Mika. I think my view is that automation shouldn't replace humans, but instead should be used in conjunction. So when used in conjunction, I think it's a really powerful way to actually deliver a high quality customer experience. And as I mentioned, automation plays a really big role in what we do. And I guess to give a little bit more context here, what sort of drove us here is at the start of the pandemic, our support volume went from, sitting around 2,000 tickets a month to 12,000 tickets a month. And to combat this, we jumped not into hiring, but we really doubled down on automation. And we took a step back and looked at what could we automate and what could provide an excellent customer experience at the end of the day. But for me, what I think is the interesting challenge here is that it's still a challenge to really strike that correct balance. So knowing when to automate and when to use a human agent. And something that really stood out for me the other day is I was listening to a podcast by Sue Morris, who is the VP of Customer Success at GitLab. And she was talking about customer experience in general. And she said something along the lines of, and I'm definitely going to butcher this quote, but it was about, in a relationship with a customer, there's a moment of truth where you really need to show yourself. And if you show who you really are, and if that comes through to the customer, you'll win their true loyalty, maybe not for life, but you'll win their true loyalty in that moment. And I think why this really spoke to me is because it's the importance of finding the right balance and knowing what situations you can automate and make something fast and repetitive, and when should you use a human, utilize your human agents, and for something that's more complex or emotional, for example, because at the end of the day, I think striking that correct balance is the most important thing. And if you get it right, and we're still trying, and I wouldn't say we're always there at all, but I think if you strike that correct balance, you definitely can, get your customers' loyalty in that moment. So they're my thoughts on that. I'm sure
balance is a really interesting word there, Lauren, and it absolutely hits the nail on the head. When I was thinking about this point, I was thinking about, what does the customer want? They want a fast response, but they want relevant answers, right? They want answers to their questions, but they also want that kind of degree of empathy. They want that personal touch. They want to know that somebody cares. And in each of those, automation can undoubtedly help, and the help it provides will grow. But you can't deliver automation without people, and you can't deliver good customer service without people. It's as simple as that, in my view.
Yeah, on the automation side, we at Lessonly, we deal more in the human element anyway, because we're training and onboarding, right? And for us, it's always good to have that automation in place to take care of things at scale, like what Lauren was talking about, like from going to 2 to 12,000. But you also need to take into account the training of the humans. So it's more of the augmentation and making sure there is that empathy, which Tom was speaking to. So when you have a guru, when you're integrated with Guru, and you have a Zendesk ticket coming up, and you notice that the human is actually having a lot of problems with one of these tickets, it's really up to you to make sure that you are training that human to deal with it appropriately, and then the automation can deal with everything else. And I think a lot of times we spend, I don't know if it's too much time, I don't want to get too intense here, but spend a lot of time on the tech and not enough time on the human element behind what's happening, because you always have to have that. So as long as the automation is in place to help you scale, you also need that feedback loop from the tech to the human, and train them and have the human practice appropriately. I feel like human and robot, we're talking about Terminator coming back, but I'll leave it at that. But it's definitely the practice element that's important there too.
Kyle, you've touched on a really important point there, which is that kind of shiny new thing syndrome, isn't it? We focus on the technology because that's where the excitement lies, and I know we're going to come on to talk about this, but without thinking about the humans behind it, and actually how that affects the introduction of technology or automation impacts their workflow and everything. But yeah, that's a really interesting point, I think. Well,
Lauren wasn't going to go hire 30 people to handle a 10,000 increase in, right? Like you have to have, she was talking about balance, which is so true. I think that we're a little off balance sometimes on the technology side.
Yeah. And I definitely align with that as well. I think where we look to automation is just to remove some of those kind of quicker, easier things, to then really invest energy and use that opportunity to train the team through Lessonly, or making sure they're product experts, and then they can provide that emotional, empathetic support to the customers. So I think that's completely spot on, that can never overlook that human side of it as well.
Just to add to that about the empathy and kind of human and automation itself. So the great trend that I'm seeing right now as well is not just from the customers kind of side, but as well from the employees and customer service representatives, who actually really felt the benefit of automation, especially during this last year with all of the COVID and everything moving online. So really the number of requests increased. People are working from home and getting the same questions every day. So there were like a lot of burnouts here and there, and automation really helped to kind of avoid this frustration and repetitive questions. So these people could now concentrate on more engaging and creative tasks they can perform, which then lead to kind of even the better mood and understanding of the client from their side. They can be creative, they can figure out the ways and recommendation of how to improve your product, service, etc. But not just be an answering machine working from the same house, from the same kind of office every day, answering the same questions, which is just kind of really hard these days. So I think that's a kind of big good trend that I see right now, which I think will bring as well a lot of value to all of us.
And Max, you really bring up a good point there with it affecting the employee experience as well, because we have to remember it's a balance of both sides. I know recently customer experience has become kind of more of a buzzword in customer support and customer service, but I've also seen a good bit about that employee experience as well. You know, I guess Lauren, Max, have you guys seen the benefits of that? You know, Lauren, did you see the direct benefits of, you know, working with this stuff with automation? Did it seem like your team was able to spend their time on a lot of the more, you know, complex or more creative tasks instead of having to answer, you know, the same question 50 times a day?
Yeah, I think it can definitely be more motivating for the team. I think it also really helps the team have time and bandwidth and even mental bandwidth to advocate for the customers and really like champion their issues and their pains to the wider team. Because I think sometimes if, you know, you're really bogged down in something very monotonous and you're answering, you know, the same ticket after the same ticket, you have sort of less capacity to go to the product team or the engineering team and be like, hey, you know, our customers are really struggling with this and I think they really need help in this area. So I think, to Max's point, what some of those automations help you do is really, you know, help the team advocate more for the customers.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Max, please.
Just wanted to add real quick that I actually do see that trend as well. Like 5 years ago or whatever, when we started building a chatbot for any company, typically we would communicate with 1, 2, 3 people max, right? Typically there was like kind of managers and kind of bigger stakeholders. But now during the recent years, there are more and more people just from customer service joining and bringing these great ideas of how to automate this, how to position, what would be the personality of the chatbot. So they're actually wanted to be involved. And I see kind of how they're now rather passionate about this than kind of the gatekeeper, so-called, that they're like, no, we don't need automation. It's all good. We're handling that. So just to confirm that hypothesis.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think you actually, Lauren, have hit on a theme that we have kind of talked about in previous sessions. We had a session yesterday that touched a lot on integrating your customer service and customer support team into the larger part of the company, because you don't want that group to end up in a silo, because they are your major touch point for your customer. I mean, they're going to be the ones that know where the main issues are, and most likely they really need to be the ones driving the roadmap. So it's very interesting to me that you mentioned that the automation actually does help with that. I just think that's incredible.
Yeah, Michael, on that point, I'm really excited by some of this discussion, because, you know, that's certainly something we've been focusing on at ProWritingAid, how to bring the customer service team, you know, it's a core competency, it's a core team within the organization, with direct links into product, into marketing, into all teams. But I'm really interested to see how we can use automation even better there to kind of to facilitate those links. I think it's an issue that a lot of organizations face.
Absolutely. So kind of moving on to a different area, let's get into a little bit about self-service resources, because I know that's a major part of automation from the customer end. And it goes back to this loop of, if the customers are able to get their questions answered, it reduces the workload for your customer service team. So therefore they're under less pressure and they're better able to provide a better experience for the customers whenever they are face to face. What do you guys think are kind of first steps that a team might need to take whenever they're building self-service resources, if they're starting from zero? No, and Kyle,
Yeah, I would love to hear how Lauren thought about that. I mean, we use Zendesk as well on the Leslie side for the Knowledge Hub, and there's a feedback loop there between our support team and the people building out the content for the self-service hub. And then of course we have a Chrome extension that allows our support reps to easily pull information out of our Knowledge Hub, and so that they can get the information quickly, right? But from an early perspective, I'd love to know from anybody actually on this call. Lauren, I pointed in particular just because the scale is pretty crazy on the Loom side, but we started with making sure that we understood the top questions that needed answered, creating content around those, and then building it in a knowledge hub like Zendesk, like what Zendesk has as a product offering.
Yeah, I mean, we followed the same workflow. For us, it was all about, digging into the Zendesk Explore data and really seeing what our customers are struggling with, where are their points of confusion, and then from there, tailoring that into our knowledge base. And unsurprisingly, like, we have a lot of video in our knowledge base as well. So we always try to pair an article with a video too, just to walk a customer through steps if they prefer that option of learning. But I think as well, instead of, definitely filling the knowledge base with the answers, but really trying to formulate that information and pass it back to product and engineering as well, I think is so crucial, because sometimes, like, if you're just putting answers to things the people are asking, and then you have to think a step back and think, okay, maybe people shouldn't even be asking this. That part of the product shouldn't even be confusing. So then, sharing that with the product team to try to encourage them, or to sort of understand the customer pain points and fix it at the product level. So that's kind of how we think about it.
Yeah, Micah, one of the points I made a kind of a point for this particular question is around kind of something we've done at ProWriting, and we're quite a small support team at ProWriting. We've grown a lot, literally from one person kind of 18 months ago. But it's about the engagement and buy-in of the team and empowerment of the team. So it's actually getting them to lead the journey towards kind of automation. So, we've talked about data, analysis of the data. We've got a huge amount of data. We use Help Scout for our help desk. And I think we realized we were only scratching the surface for what's in there in terms of data. But we've given the responsibility to people within the team, so that they kind of are taking it on the journey. They're building their kind of professional development portfolio, but they're also really engaged in what we're trying to do, and it's having really good results. But yeah, we for sure got a long way to go, but it's certainly starting with data and understanding what's there.
And Tom, this kind of leads into my next question, which is going to be on, if you're trying to incorporate automation into the wider team, if we're just talking about any and all resources, whether that's your self-service resources, whether that's new workflows, things like that, what are some of the best steps you can take? And Max, I think you've got a lot to say on this topic.
Sure. I think first of all, a great point from Tom that I said this actually the first step. The first step is to make sure that your team, the customer support team, is on board, and they know why we're doing that, what we're trying to achieve, and what their role is. Because when your team is aligned, you'll be amazed how many great and creative ideas they'll bring to the table in terms of the automation, and you'll receive much better results than you will just think of that yourself and think that you know everything, right, as a manager. So I think that's definitely a point where you should start. Then when the team is aligned, we can kind of you should brainstorm together based on the data that you have, as already mentioned, in terms of most popular questions. What are the channels our clients are using? What are this? Who is our client? What would they prefer as communication channel, and who they would kind of prefer to communicate with? So we have to take care of that, analyze what are the most popular questions, what are the current workflows, and then try to brainstorm what are the gaps or like the most repetitive tasks in this workflows for the clients. So we see that they're asking a lot about the pricing. This is number one. Like typically, for example, for e-commerce, what we see is just so obvious, but it's still someone gets surprised. in e-commerce space, the most popular question that sometimes is like 30% of all of the questions is, what's the status of my order? When it will be shipped or whatever, right? So just by automating this one question, you already get rid of 30% of all of the requests. So you want to make sure and analyze that, hey, we want to start with this most important and most powerful, let's say, things to automate. Like, they might be easy to do, they might be hard to do, but the kind of the end result will be the highest for us, and the ROI will be the highest. And as well, when we're speaking about the workflows inside the customer support team, you always as well have to look for that and engage your team to find this ways where you can ask them, what are these tasks that you perform every day that do not really require that much, I'd say, of a creative work or like thinking at all. Is just the manual thing that you move the ticket from here to there or whatever. For example, for one of our clients, we had this story that they were sure that they needed chatbot, and this is their way of automation. Just right now, we don't need a discovery. We know what we want to do. But then, like, we kind of said, all right, we'll do the discovery phase for you. We'll do it like really for cheap, but we just want to make sure that we'll do it. And during the discovery phase, what we identified is that there is a full-time employee that was taking care of the messages, the request messages from WhatsApp, and was manually putting them into the Salesforce, because their Salesforce didn't have a connection to WhatsApp. So the person was just copying that, creating a ticket, copying that, creating a ticket. And we just understood that, and we said, let's just automate that and have everything aligned and have everything in Salesforce. And that's what we did. And that's now full-time employee was able to actually perform, actually helping the customers, not just doing the copy-paste job. So really look for that moments where there's a lot of repetitive tasks for both parties. After that, with iterations, you want to kind of start with the pieces of the biggest influence, but kind of deploy it or release it. Definitely look for the feedback and ongoingly improve and work with that. So the key as well here is not to develop something based on your assumptions and kind of develop it for a year and then just see the result and enjoy it, because you will not enjoy it, but rather do it with iterations, like months after months after months, deliver something there and get the feedback and learn from it.
That is actually very, very interesting that you mentioned that that was just a little workflow tweak that they were able to make there. Lauren, did your team run into anything like that whenever you started with working with these automations? I know there's a lot out there. I mean, from talking about macros and Zendesk to, full scale, just, doing things in Zapier, IFTTT, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, for us, there was so many issues and learnings along the way. And I think the thing is, and it's along the lines of what Max was saying, deploy something and then just continue to watch it and iterate on it. And that's like, I think, the best piece of advice for any support team starting out or, looking into automating more things, because you can't just set it up and leave it, because, your CSAT numbers are going to drop. So I think it's just keeping a really close eye on analytics.
I've got to say, as soon as Max mentioned the customer said we don't need discovery phase, I kind of shivered. Just thought, I know what's coming here. I've heard it so many times before, but yeah, that's a really, really interesting story and example, Max. I like that.
Well, and I guess kind of touching similarly on kind of a similar vein here, are there any rookie mistakes that you guys have run into in kind of your automation? I think, Tom, you have a colleague that's talked a lot about this with you.
Yeah. Well, I've mentioned the shiny new thing syndrome, right? The kind of, just diving in, thinking, well, everyone's got a chatbot. We need a chatbot. Let's just install a chatbot. That'll fix everything, right? And I got into a conversation actually with a neighbor of mine who I never knew was kind of involved in this world at quite a deep level. And it's fascinating talking to him about the kind of, the training that goes on, the continual training that needs to go on when you deploy any kind of automation, particularly around chatbots. So it's that kind of, it's the set it and forget it just doesn't happen. And I think people think it will. They put it in place. And I know that some of the big banks over here in the UK have done this. They've invested huge amounts and then they just assume it's not working for them, because no one's actually helping them understand the data. No one's helping them refine and train the system so that it's delivering the kind of data and the results that they need, and delivering the benefits that they need. I think one thing that's also interesting here, Micah, is around, I call it agent recentering. So, we've all talked about the fact that automation is great for kind of sweating the small stuff, well, not necessarily small, but the repetitive tasks. But that means that you're leaving your agents dealing with the bigger, more important cases, which is great. That's what they should be doing. But actually, you need to think how that's affecting their workflow and their impact on their work. What kind of support are you giving the agents? So again, this links into that point around, team buy-in. What is this journey you're going on? So there's lots of things here, I think, where there are lots of pitfalls that you can fall into. That's a few. I mean, I'm sure, Lauren, Kyle, Max, I'm sure you've got others to share that you've seen or experienced.
I think it goes back to balance. I've seen situations where we've friends that work with other companies, and even on the Leslie side, we've implemented an automation, a chatbot, and then not followed up with also augmenting on the human side. So I think it's more that Tom, you said something about set it and forget it. But if you're scaling, I don't care if you're retail or software or whatever, you also have to follow on with that human side of support, and you've got to hire based off of need there too. And you can't just look at the automation to solve that. That's what I've seen as a rookie mistake. We did that at Lessonly on the inbound side because we use our chatbot for marketing as well as support. And we failed to realize that when you put a chatbot in place, it's a good problem to have. You put a chatbot in place, you're getting more, you're just getting more activity. And when you have a human answering a lot of that higher end activity and not the stuff that can be automated, you don't want people to burn out. And we should have hired quicker, honestly, because it was just the volume they couldn't handle.
So that's actually very kind of a funny influx there, that you would have an automation that actually spurs more hiring, because I think everyone thinks, oh, automation, the robots are coming for our jobs, we're not going to have any humans on the team. So I think that's a great example of how you can actually use that automation to grow your team instead. So it's not one of these things that it is just, taking it out of the hands of your human team and all of that sort of end of things. Max, Lauren, anything you guys would like to tack on as far as rookie mistakes you've seen or rookie mistakes you might have run into yourself?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if this is a rookie mistake, more of a rookie mentality, but I think and it is going back to that balance piece again, but if you're coming at automation just thinking, oh, this is cost saving, like we're going to save money, this when the customer is going to suffer, essentially. So I think it's really important to remember that you want to be providing a better experience than just a cheaper one. And, pushing too many interactions to a bot or too many interactions to an automated reply is just going to cause a lot of frustration. And then I think, to your point, Tom, and Kyle, about burdening the agent, a frustrated customer is then going to be, more difficult for then your team to deal with. So then you're not really supporting your team because you're just presenting them with, very disgruntled customers who have been thrown through a million automations that haven't satisfied them. So I think it's really thinking about the customer experience and not just as a cost-saving mechanism.
So I agree. That actually also was one of my points that I wanted to add, is just you have to think customer experience first and solve the problem. And that will be the result of that might be the savings, but might be, as Kyle mentioned, might be new sales. So you have to hire more people. So it's not necessarily just the cost savings, but rather as well as a new source of whatever conversions of your website. And as well, completely agree with Tom that many people still are making this mistake of kind of the shiny new object, bright new object. So they're just jumping in this new technology. I want AI, artificial intelligence, all of that. Really kind of strong chatbot. I don't know, this kind of just the page where they can find the answers. No, I want to be really, really advanced. But it doesn't make sense for them at that situation. So I think you'll have to kind of make your discovery for sure and make sure you are doing the right choices. And as well, one more thing is that no human touch. So if you're not leaving the space for the and not kind of communicating well that this is the chatbot or this is the kind of page where you can find these answers and that's it. You rather have to say that you always can contact us here. Here is Kyle, our representative or whatever. So you have to make sure that you build that connection and trust right away. So you provide users with options, not just leaving them feel that I'm not important. So they bring automation to me right away. So I don't like this company, this kind of thing.
And that's an excellent point about always having the option to get in touch with a human. Kyle, I think for your company with Lessonly, this is a really complex area because you talk about, having to strike that balance between the human touch and the automation, because to a certain extent, Lessonly is almost automating the onboarding process. How on earth do you guys handle that whenever it's something that usually you have to have somebody there to kind of do some hand holding? Because I mean, you're throwing a newbie into a whole new area.
Yeah, this is less exciting to talk about than cool chatbots and automation. But, traditionally, you've pulled people off the floor or off of their desk to train, right? Like whether it's product training or ticket resolution training, or anything that you would have to deal with. And for us, it's more focused on how do you do the training while they are doing the support. So it's more built into the automation flow or the workflow, than it is pulling them off. Because, if you're talking about a call center that has 20,000 reps, that's an expensive process to pull 1,000 people off to train them on something. So if there's a way that you can do that appropriately with feedback loops from the technology that you've put in, if somebody's having a problem with a ticket, it's really about how do you allow them to practice and develop skills during the day, during their normal workflow, than pulling them off and putting them in a room with a handbook. And the reason I say it's boring is because most of us on this call are sitting here thinking that's crazy. I don't know why we would do that, but a lot of people do. And I think that it is less effective. And if you can work it into the workflow, which includes everything we've talked about today, it's just the rep is better, they're more empathetic, and they enjoy the role more because they're getting that training and development that they need in order to succeed in their job. That's what's so important.
Carl, I actually find that really, really interesting and quite exciting because my background, I spent years working in corporate training, selling training courses where we were taking groups out into classrooms to teach them how to write in a business setting, right? Many teams employ really highly skilled team members, but they're generally not trained how to write. So they maybe not be good communicators. They may be maybe fantastic accountants, but ask them to write a report, not so. So a core part of ProWritingAid, and I know this is going to sound as a little bit of a plug, but a core part of ProWritingAid is about how we build skills and capability of users. So build in training materials so that while you're looking at, ProWritingAid highlights a sentence in your customer email that highlights, I don't know, the passive voice, let's say, and it's saying, hey, if you write this in an active voice, you're going to engage, the chances are you're going to engage your customer better. But many people won't understand what the difference is. Rather than having people out on the training course, I totally agree with you, Carl. You do it kind of in the flow of work, right? So we have resources built in so you can watch a video, you can understand, you can learn, you can reinforce your learning there and then. But I think these kind of things are actually really exciting because you do need to deliver that in the context of someone's work. It's much more effective if you can do that and if they can practice it while they're actually at their desk. It makes sense to me.
Or democratizing learning, like Lauren's reps should be able to create learning base and give it to everybody else. I mean, I think pulling it off the floor and having some instructional designers spend 90 hours developing a lesson when it was just a ticket that they had a problem with is not good and is not going to work. So just allowing you to move quickly when it comes to training and onboarding and building it into that workflow is so important.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Because part of that too is the fact that we so often have team members that they have this information kind of siloed in their minds. You don't know what your team members have learned on the job, that whenever you go and hire, someone new, all the stuff that is kind of this, I believe they called it, kind of tribe knowledge almost, that is just learned in the flow of work and being on the job. How do you get that into the hands of newbies? And I think absolutely, Kyle, if you democratize the learning process, you're going to get so much more benefit out of that.
I think what you said, Carl, really resonates as well, because I think our team is at that stage. We have 15 people on the support team, and we're really hitting that point where learning is, you learn on the job, but there's so much to learn. And I think what you said about having it baked into your workflow, so like learning where you're actually doing the ticket is so important, because that context just helps the knowledge be so much more accessible. And again, it comes down to kindness to your agents as well. You're not just throwing them 20 pages of Notion to read, to learn. You're giving them more of an engaging experience. So yes, we need Lessonly is what I'm saying.
Well, I've also thrown 20 pages of Notion at somebody, so I understand. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work well, and it will work, but it takes too long, and it's not enjoyable.
Definitely. And I think we noticed that agents, they learn the knowledge on the job. So yeah, learning it before you ever come across the ticket isn't that beneficial, but learning it as you're doing it is just so much more valuable.
And I think just kind of an offshoot of this question, I think, Lauren, we get into kind of Loom's area, because Loom is automating process explanations. I know within our marketing team, we've probably sent about 15 different Loom videos back and forth to, explain how to edit videos, how to get things uploaded, all of that good stuff. So how do you think a tool like Loom can work to the advantage of a customer service team?
Well, first of all, I'm excited to hear that you guys have been sending explanations around. That's cool to hear. But from a customer support team perspective, I guess, we send a lot of one-to-one customers to videos, but also, we might be walking through troubleshooting steps. We might be explaining their invoice to them, but also we hold on to these and share them as evergreen content as well. So that way we can reuse, recycle, have a shared repository as well. And the thing about this is I think it goes the other way as well, with automating explanations that you're passing on to your customers, but also asking them to share with you what they're seeing, what they're having trouble with. Maybe they're having, they're experiencing a bug with their chatbot. So they want you get them to send you a video to understand what they're seeing. And what we find is this really speeds up resolution time, because we have richer insight to understand what they're experiencing. And not to quote Tom, but this is going to sound like a plug, but it's not. But if anyone, is interested in implementing this same implement video into your contact form, because that's what we do. We ask our customers to share us a video. We've recently launched yesterday a free embeddable SDK. And what that does is allows anyone to record anywhere, just with a few lines of code, and embed a Loom recorder into your button, or a Loom button into your product. And from a support perspective, obviously asking your customers to show us what you're seeing is really valuable. And what we've found is customers or the support agents can diagnose the information quicker, and there's just a lot less opportunity for misunderstanding, because what people say isn't always exactly what they're experiencing. So it's a way to kind of cut through that. And I guess similar to what Carl was mentioning before, from a team training point of view as well, we do really heavily rely on, and I think support teams can really benefit from training staff with video as well. So along the lines of what wonderful products like Lessonly does too, support teams have to have so much product knowledge, and the product is always changing. So training them through video means it's not synchronous. You don't have to put them in that room and talk to everyone. There's less calendar coordination and all of that difficulty that goes on with time zones. And essentially it just means your team has time to upskill, and the time you save with automations, you can really redirect and invest into training and upskilling your team. So yeah, they're kind of how we see video and support.
Awesome. So interesting to hear that it cuts really both ways for both the customer and the employee. Again, coming back to, it's all a flywheel. You improve your customer's experience, you're going to improve your employee's experience. Max, just to touch on a little bit about how you would build a chatbot, because I can imagine whenever you have a customer come in, how on earth do you even start thinking about that workflow? Because I mean, there could be so many possible questions a customer might ask, how do you guys kind of work through that process? What are you guys thinking about whenever your customer first comes through the door and you get an idea of, okay, they do need a chat bot? How do you start building that? What are the things that you're keeping in mind with the workflows?
Sure. I think that when the client first comes to us and asks to build a chatbot, the first question that we ask is, why do you think you need a chatbot? And typically they have some assumptions, which might be right, might be wrong. So pretty much in order to start it right, you have to go through a decent, let's say, discovery phase and understand, really understand, not just on a conceptual level, but document actually what are the current processes in customer support department and what are the tools that they're using. Because when you're introducing the chatbot, you want to make sure that it will align with all of your current ecosystem. So if you're a big company and you want to implement the chatbot, and I just give you a tool, say this is your tool, you have to build a chatbot, but then it cannot integrate with your CRM, or it cannot integrate with other systems you're using. And at the end of the day, it's just useless. And your customer support team is just kind of exhausted having to learn, again, a new tool and maybe forget an old tool or something like that. So you want to make sure that it aligns with your current ecosystem. And then also what we do, we go through the historical data of your tickets. Hopefully you have some, because if you don't have customer support department at all and you don't have any data, then it's really hard to start any type of automation, and especially chatbot automation. So you have to kind of go, if you have it, we will go through that tickets. We would then structurize the data, and we would identify the most common questions. Typically what works is the 20-80 rule. It's just the golden rule, it seems like everywhere, but 20% of questions typically cover 80% of all of the requests. So we identify these questions, and we also analyze the audience that you are talking with to make sure that your audience will get the right experience, will build their kind of design the right personality of the chatbot, the character of the chatbot, so they can actually trust this tool and not be like disappointed. This is a robot, all right? I don't know the robot. I don't want to talk with the robot, but maybe have some kind of nice design around it. Make it sometimes it can be fun, and sometimes it can be more to the serious point of thing. But just to align with your audience, we want to make sure that we understand your audience as well. Only then we kind of design the chatbot flow fully, the chatbot conversation, I mean. So from the first message, what are the possible options that the user can ask for? We would want to show this most popular questions first, so the user can get the answer right away, but always give them the ability to ask this question just using typing if it is not on the list. So that's how you create the best experience. So we kind of design this workflow, design the personality, design the full diagram of the conversation. Only then we approve it with the client, and we build the full roadmap and set up goals that, hey, for the first kind of, let's say, proof of concept, we want to take care of this, let's say, 20% of all of the requests, and we want to achieve let's say 10% less requests to customer support department, and we want to receive, which is really important, at least like say 4-star feedback from our users, because it's not, again, just about the automation, but also about the end customer experience. We want to understand how is this customer experiences, and then step by step through the phases, and we set goals for the phases. We achieve these goals, we analyze what were the results, and then we plan the next phase and the next phase. So that's kind of how we go with it. So it's not about just bringing some really advanced technology right away, but step by step, cut more and more and bring more and more benefits for your end users and learn from them.
So basically, you're taking that super complex process and breaking it down. Tom, again, just kind of piggybacking off this question of complexity. Obviously, we know that writing has a ton of complexity behind it. So what do you think is going to be kind of the role of automation and artificial intelligence in writing in the future?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Well, if we have our way, no, I'm joking. it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, right now, we're able to develop, for some fairly complex machine learning models. So if you take a tool like ProWritingAid, and there are other tools out there, obviously, they're able to do a lot of kind of sweating of the small stuff, like I've already mentioned. But it's a similar point, right? They're never going to replace the writer. And this is a point I talk about to all of our customers, all of our users. Using ProWritingAid doesn't mean you can put your feet up and just assume the job's taken care of, right? The editor is still, or whoever's going to edit or proofread your document, they still need to do that job. But actually, you look at most of the customers I speak to on a daily basis, their kind of trigger point or their pain point is to do with the fact that they are wasting time, and their time is usually very expensive. And most of it is spent finding typos and grammar mistakes. Whereas actually, and you can't help it, your eye's distracted by those, you latch onto them, right? But actually, what you should be doing is focusing on the content, focusing on the structure of the argument, the big picture. What is it you're actually trying to get across? So with AI in writing, it kind of solves that problem. It allows you to focus on the important stuff whilst taking care of the stuff that would otherwise distract you. And that will continue to improve. Like I said, with building in learning capabilities within tools, with added customization, so you can, writing is a really broad and complex subject. So if you can build in customization that allows you to accommodate your style rules or your tone of voice rules, those kind of things, which ProWritingAid can do, then it goes that step further as well. But it all comes back to the fact that no tool is going to replace the writer or the reviewer either. You've got to take responsibility for your own writing.
I think we've just come on this theme that the automation is never totally going to replace the humans. You've always got to have that human touch, but the automation can certainly help. I think it is about time for us to wrap up. So just one more question. What do you guys think is going to be the next frontier in customer service automation? And Kyle, if you'd like to kick us off here.
Actually using chatbots appropriately. I mean, honestly, I love these questions on the next frontier, because chatbots have been around for a little bit now, and we still are having problems trying to figure out how to use automation in a way that's meaningful. So, people like Max and the companies that are building this stuff, that is the next frontier, right? And it's for us to get better at using it and making sure that it's augmented appropriately with human interaction. And of course, probably virtual reality. I'm just going to say some term that everybody knows. Some type of virtual reality in the chatbot.
Maybe blockchain as well.
Yes, and blockchain, and probably Bitcoin chatbot, a Bitcoin chatbot, probably.
Yeah.
Does anybody else want to add?
I'm with Kyle on that one totally. It's going to be, and I'm sure Max is already on this, but it's kind of changing our perception of chatbots for the better, and that comes through good proper implementation and experiences and stories, as well as chatbots that do what they're going to do really, really efficiently. And so I'm really excited by that, because I think we've got a long way to go.
Yeah, I do agree here, and I think then kind of the evolution of it is that, like, we're getting closer to the point where the chatbots are kind of more and more acceptable and people know what to expect from them. And I think this next step is the transition that we see, that the customer support teams are getting more and more involved into actually building this chatbot, which is definitely bringing the better results, because chatbots kind of tend to be more of the technical thing. So people that are doing some programming stuff will create the chatbot, and it might be a really advanced chatbot, but at the end of the day, it's not fitting the expectations of the users, right? So then when we kind of mix these teams, the strong tech and as well a really strong customer support team, and the customer support team can actually lead that, and it's so easy to build the chatbot that customer support team can build it themselves on the knowledge base that you're having already. I think this is where we would see much kind of better results, and this is the And next big thing I think that would happen, and the transition that will happen to make this automation even, I'd say, more powerful.
And Lauren, anything to tack on where you think the next frontier is?
I think, agree with what everyone's mentioned here. I think it's just about whatever the next frontier is, chatbots, Bitcoin chatbots. I think it's still guaranteeing a high quality interaction. So, and also taking the responsibility off the customer to be doing things on their end. So making sure that we're reducing as much effort as possible for the customer and just making it as easy for them to get the support and assistance they need from a company. So anything that strip out that level of effort is where I think we need to go.
Absolutely. All about making everyone's lives easier, from the customer to your employee. Well, guys, that was a fantastic session. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you all for watching. We greatly appreciate it. Keep an eye out soon for an announcement about 2 more bonus events that are going to be part of our customer service spotlight. We are going to be joined by both live chat and churn 0 for these next events. So you might want to block your calendars off on the 22nd and the 24th. Be on the lookout for that announcement soon. And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
So